My name is indeed Jonathan E. Jeb Bowen, and we are indeed talking about ancient people in the Lower Scioto, 2500 BC to the year 1650. Anyway, as I was saying, I'm in a very unusual but good situation this evening, but still very unusual. Here I am giving a lecture, and who am I looking at? The audience is filled, packed, predominating with the people who taught me everything that I'm going to be talking about tonight. And so number one, I humbly thank all of you for all of your kindness and tutoring and sharing over the decades. But I kind of feel like, you know, I'm having some kind of like an oral examination here because I'm telling this stuff in front of my teachers. So just, you know, thanks to all of you, and I'll try as much as I can to do you folks, you know, justice and all the kindness and teaching that you have so generously shared with me. Anyway, and also, sure enough, in 40 minutes, which will be 6:50, we will indeed adjourn up to the gallery where the Wirtz collection is on exhibit. And there will be Mr. Valentine, who's someplace here. He's waving. Steve has brought 2 tables full of spectacular artifacts to look at. And he can teach you as he's taught me. And from the Clarke-May Museum, we brought, and Steve's are to look at. From the Clarke-May Museum, we brought another table. Those are not in cases, but laid on the table. The ones on the Clarke-May table are to pick up, you know, and examine, and, you know, that's a hands-on exhibit. So we hope to see you up there in about 40 minutes from now. Anyway, did anybody that I would, from last week, as I mentioned, this is Big Rock in western Jackson County. Did anyone do a Google search on Big Rock if you weren't familiar with it? Oh, shame, shame. It's a neat place, and I encourage everybody to do a Google search on Big Rock. Nothing to do with archaeology specifically, but it has a very interesting past. Anyway, let us, there we go. Okay, this slide should look familiar. North is to this direction on this slide. It just shows the area that at the Clarke-May Museum and the other museums that we have the research interest in, all the way from the south edge of Columbus, down the Scioto River to here at Portsmouth, and also including the Salt Creek Basin, that as we know is part of the Scioto River Basin, including the Jackson-Wellston area. So here is, and somebody better see, make this work here. There we go. What are we outlining?
The old Tate River.
Thank you. People were paying attention to Dr. Shoemaker. Yes. Okay. And now it's time for a very short Archie sermon, but then we will get into artifact pictures, okay? As I'm sure we can all agree, mutual cooperation, besides being between organizations and people in the organizations, it's not just fun, but it's also essential to get any, you know, to make progress. And just want to mention some of the, just speaking archaeologically, and again, this is not an exhaustive, you know, list, but we had to stop somewhere. But some of the main organizations that are cooperating extensively, especially in the area of archaeology. Here we have, let's see, okay, in Circleville, the Pickaway County Historical Society's Clarke-May Museum. There we go. Can Mr. Argerbright wave, please? And here we have Gary Argabright. We have the Ross County Historical Society in Chillicothe, as well as the Mound City chapter of the Archaeological Society of Ohio. Gary is, I don't know if you are right now, but you're certainly past trustee, aren't you?
Yeah, I was on the board 9 years.
Yes, and past trustee of the Ross County Historical Society, and also secretary of the Mound City Archaeology chapter. And then, of course, who's heard of this place? Southern Ohio Museum and Cultural Center, where we're sitting right now. And then the Ark of Appalachia, certainly. And, again, I want to very, highly recommend the Ark of Appalachia's, work. Just superb. And also helping with these programs, right? Mm-hmm. So many reasons, just a fine organization. And what's the FSM over by Serpent Mound? Can Mr. Wilson wave, please? We have the Friends of Serpent Mound, and Jeffrey Wilson, the president of the Friends of Serpent Mound. And I myself support all these organizations, and we just all have a wonderful cooperative working relationship, and really makes it a pleasure to be working in this area. Anyway, that sermon is over. It's time for the artifact pictures. Aha. Now, this artifact is not as big as it looks here. It's about, the size of a pool ball, perhaps. Although not round, but about the size of a pool ball. In fact, it's 53 millimeters across, a little over half the length of a cigarette. Anyway, it's made, it's from the end on, and these things, we call them, we call them prismoidal banner stones, because they're kind of prismoidal in shape. We call them banner stones because a lot of people have ideas, but no one really knows for sure what they're used for, so that's just a name. But does anybody see what's happened, what's going on here? It's being drilled, and what are they drilling with? Yes. And as you can see, this one only goes in a short distance. The core is still there. It's not at all finished. This one here is from California Hollow, the mouth of California Hollow, along Paint Creek, between Bainbridge and Bourneville in a northwestern, or I should say western Ross County. And here's something interesting about these. As you know, we can't cover like 3,500 years in any exhaustive way in just a few minutes. So what we're doing tonight is I tried to pick out a couple issues and things that were hopefully fairly interesting in the order of time, and talk about those tonight. Okay. These so-called prismoidal banner stones. The map on my side is their distribution in the world. Ones that have been reported. You can see all the way from Arkansas up to northwestern and western Pennsylvania. And this big concentration here is the Savannah River in South Carolina. But here, this is the map I particularly find fascinating. From the distance where folks are sitting, are you able to see that some of the black dots have like a white dot in the middle of them? Because these are the ones reported from Ohio. But look, only less than half of them have the drilling going all the way through. Less than half. And one really wonders. I don't know if any of you have seen the Bartletts in Greg Shipley's program and all the banner stones they found here in eastern Champaign County at the one site. Those were all drilled. This wonderful program. But, here are those from Scioto County, including the ones at Tremper. like one of them is drilled in. Look at all the ones that aren't finished. So, what's going on? No one knows. We just don't. And truly what I consider a very interesting mystery.
Chad?
Yes, somebody relieve the monotony here, please.
I'm not going to relieve the monotony.
Well, I'm sure you will.
I've seen 2 or 3 different YouTube videos of the process of drilling a prismoidal banner stone through granite stone, and it takes non-stop 14 hours.
Wow.
And so the one guy that I saw, he had a stop clock, not a stopwatch, but a stop clock, and he would go until he couldn't go anymore and clock out.
I know the late Frank Otto that collected these things. His hypothesis was, maybe not everybody, but maybe everybody of a certain, station in life or a certain gender or age class or whatever started to make one. And if it was buried with them, and if they died before it was done, that's as far as it ever got. But I mean, that's untestable, so who knows? But truly an interesting mystery.
And then another aspect of it is, oddly enough, they're not found or reported as being found west of the Mississippi. And
just
we had
a tiny, like a tiny smattering. That's it. Yes, tiny smattering. Very
phenomenon of the East.
A very interesting mystery. Anyway, speaking of mysteries, let's move on to another one. Okay, here we have these so-called, sometimes we call these Riverton points or bird points. Yeah, no real evidence that they're particularly used on birds, specifically, but called Riverton after culture on the Lower Wabash on the Indiana-Illinois border. But these things are about 2,000 years BC to about 1,300 BC. And Mr. Kuhn, how many do you think of these were found over the years by various people out at the old county home?
Oh, wowzers.
A zillion, right? A zillion. People that found them out there when they were the community gardens, and just zillions. And these are often found just by the huge number in certain locations. One really, and again, very, very distinctive. These right here are a few of them from a site along the Ohio River in Meigs County, just south of Reedsville on the Ohio River. But truly mystery, and I can't advance this using the pointer, can I? Nope. Not the pointer. Okay, but here, what is this one resharpened used for, you think? An arrow point? Not an arrow point, right? Unless it's used to shoot around the corner. This is certainly, look how totally asymmetrical, some kind of does anybody but me, I'm sure, hopefully, remember the late Dr. Kent Vickery at the University of Cincinnati that studied these things so much in Hamilton and Brown in Claremont County? He called these things Maple Creek diminutive knives. And this thing certainly was a little knife. This one is from Gallup Police, just on the shore of the Ohio River, right at the bridge.
Jeff?
But please, yes, save me, somebody, Jeff.
I have one question and a comment, if I could.
Please.
The question I had on your previous slide looked like quite a range of flint being used to make them.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So they're being found in collections together more than a dozen on your map, but they could be from wide-ranging flint sources.
Oh, absolutely the case, yes. Absolutely the case.
The second thing is, I don't know if this is reflective on your map or not, but
Well, we'll go to the map.
Bill Pickard from
Yes.
Ohio History Connection
Yes.
informed me a few years ago that a former park manager at Serpent Mound back in the 1950s discovered over 130 of them in a cache across from the entrance to Serpent Mound in the field down below, and I got a chance to view.
Totally interesting.
But he pointed out that two of them were of kind of a pale pink flint.
Now that's interesting.
And he had identified the source of that flint as being from Wisconsin.
Oh, all the more interesting.
It comes from one specific rock.
But I mean, these things are a true mystery, yes.
So
A true mystery.
showed up at Serpent Mound.
And true enough, here's your, here's some of your concentrations, right at Serpent there, right? Although I wasn't aware of that cache, but there's, like I say, your concentration at right at Serpent, and it's funny how it seems like you either don't find many, hardly any, or you find a bunch at any one spot. And a true interesting mystery. Then moving along in time to about 3,000 years ago, we have the Eastern Agricultural Complex. Before they had the corn or the beans, but when they had the sunflowers, the squash, the amaranth, the chenopodium. I haven't, but has anybody here eaten that quinoa they have in the stores now?
Yeah.
That is indeed chenopodium, isn't it?
It's a
Or close to it?
It's usually the South American variety. The North American variety is not commercially produced.
But at least it's some kind of chenopodium, yes?
Yes.
So at least it's similar to that. It's similar, at least broadly similar to what they sell in the stores. And so about 3,000 years ago, the sunflower, squash, chenopodium, and the amaranth came in to the diets. Please. What, Pam? I have eaten quinoa.
Yes.
My fiance knows that I have eaten quinoa. Uh-oh. Yes, ma'am. So I have eaten quinoa. Did I like it? Good. I'm glad I liked it. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Okay. There we go. Anyway, speaking of quinoa, but not really, and again, as you know, I always, in public places like this, I totally respect people's privacy, so I'm not snubbing folks by saying, oh, this is so-and-so's arrowhead, this is so-and-so's artifact. If I figure if the person wants them to know, they can tell people, but I'm not, going to stand up in a public podium and say, oh, guess what so-and-so and so-and-so has in their house. I mean, that's not my place. But anyway, here we have the so-called Buck Creek types about 1300 BC to about 900 BC when the agriculture complex was just starting out. And the two on my side are from a Sunfish Creek in western Pike County. And that gorgeous, pretty one clear to the right, that's from along the Ohio River in Adams County. Okay, look, here we go. And just simply, here we love, at least I love, to make the distribution maps of these things. This isn't, we don't have the time now, this isn't the time or the place to go over these maps in detail, but just want to show you some of the broad scale maps that we can, generate using all the stuff that everyone's information. What are we coming up now to know? The Emergence of the Mound Builders, a wonderful book by Elliot Abrams in Anchoring Threader at Ohio University. But now we're coming to the emergence of the mound builders, yes. Okay, looking at the time here. Anyway, the Kramer points, as we call them, This one happens to be from the Scioto River south of Chillicothe. And these things are about 600 years BC or so. And look at the huge concentration right here. And that seems to be more than reporting bias. Is there anyone in the audience who the other night at the Ross County Heritage Center gave a program on the archaeology of this certain area? And could that person mention, briefly please, what that area is and how it's, a very special ecological area?
And the geology.
Please.
That area right there is southeastern Ross County, and it basically sits at the farthest most extreme of the last glacial episode that we have, and who knows how many other times the Nebraska and the Illinois and whatever else made it down that far, because they all obliterate anything that happened before them as they come down there. But so that's the glacial maximum of the Wisconsin, and it's also pretty much the northwestern boundary of Lake Tide.
And I highly, recommend, Gary's, program when he gives it. It's totally fascinating and interesting.
Thanks, Joe.
Anyway, and at that time, about 2,600 years ago, we have the advent of pottery in this area. Pottery vessels. And now again, these names like Morton, Kramer, they're just arbitrary names given by archaeologists. They have nothing to actually intrinsically to do with the pieces. But this one happens to be from the Pickaway Plains from the Ohio Historical Society. Took that picture in 1989. But this is from the Pickaway Plains along the Scioto River in southern Pickaway County. However, you can see how it's very thick. This is the base, looking up toward the base from the outside. Look how they made it. They set it on some kind of a woven mat. See the impression from the mat that they set this on to make it. The reason I show this for another reason. Remember we were talking about Big Rock in western Jackson County, just across the county line to the west of Big Rock, just barely into Pike County. I'm looking at Mr. DNR here. Do you remember the name of that wildlife area, that little lake at eastern Pike County? I don't. Near the village of Lynn. Anyway, not in the wildlife area, but near it, up a hollow, there was a rock shelter where Steve House dug, and he found the duplicate to this. He found another inch-thick base of one of these 2,600-year-old Morton pottery vessels, and it had been set on a virtually identical mat when they made it. I didn't have a picture of Mr. House's from the interior of way up in the hills of eastern Pike County, so I have a picture of this one as a substitute. But a spectacular piece that Steve found, that he found up there. And again, these vessels, would weigh as much as a big, crock. Many pounds. And one wonders if they didn't, haul these all over, but kind of more made them for use in one place, especially when they were high up in the hills and would have to carry them and not put them in a canoe or something. Then we have the Adena mound building culture. Yes. Point on my side from Vinton County, point in the middle from just south of Jackson and Jackson County. Also the point on that side, but the good old Adena stem points from about 500 BC to about 100 BC from the Adena mound building period, and another one from the mouth of Salt Creek at Richmond Dale in southern Ross County. But, look how these things are certainly widespread all over southern Ohio, certainly. But I want to mention too in this, well, let's see, let's get another picture here though first. Okie doke. And the later Edina, 2200 BC to the year 200, this big so-called Robin's Blade, the preformed at one of these points. This is from Elk Fork of Raccoon Creek, just southeast of MacArthur. This one is from Richmondale. And you can see how they made points like these out of preforms like these. But moving right on to make a point here. Okay. This is a presumed Edina period mound from a cemetery right in the town of Jackson. But in the Edina period, don't really have time to get into it now, but when we adjourn to upstairs, we have some of the banded slate artifacts from the Edina culture, 2,000 years old, a little bit more. We have some of their polished slate drilled artifacts. We call them gorgas, but nobody has any idea really what they're used for. If anything, maybe ornament, who knows what, maybe part of clothing, we just don't know. But there are some of those upstairs that you can pick up and touch and examine. Okay, these mounds of the Edina culture. And I bet somebody can say why we choose to call it the Edina culture. Don't disappoint me. Who said it?
Thomas Worthington's farm.
Yes. Yes.
William Mills.
That's right. What did he call his farm? His estate?
Edina.
Yes. And named after that. Although at that time the mount was owned by Joseph Froelich, so he might have chosen to call it the Froelich culture. So I mean, it's just, it's all arbitrary. No one name is more, right than another one, but by convention, we call it Edina. But you can see Edina mounds are found from about Pittsburgh down to western Kentucky, into Indiana, down to Charleston, West Virginia, about up to Mount Vernon, Ohio. And here we are in the heart of it, right? Here we are in the heart of it. And, come on, there we go. This is Ohio now. I'm the first to admit these are known Edina mounds. Most of them are presumed Edina mounds. So again, this picture is a gross generalization. But anyway, in Ohio, but you can see really kind of a edge of the Edina culture in Ohio from somewhere around Preble County up to Springfield, up to Mount Vernon, down to Wheeling, and of course we're right here. And here we have Chris Carr's and Troy Case's book on the Hopewell culture. And again, as we love to say, if it would have been named a little bit earlier, it'd be the Clarke culture. After the Clarks had the property, before the Hopewells. But we do call it the Hopewell culture from about maybe the year 1 to about the year 400 or so. And, okay, do not despair. It's just 12 minutes until going up to the galleries. Okay, we're right here is, what does PM mean? Portsmouth. Here we are in Portsmouth. Here we have Flint Ridge. Here we have the Newark Works. You can see here's Lake Erie. Here we have the Newark earthworks, Circleville, all the works around Chillicothe, the works in the Paint Valley, down to the Seal earthworks between Piketon and Lucasville, then Tremper Mound, where Dr. Jared will be giving a wonderful presentation on this soon, and where the Ark of Appalachia is doing such wonderful work. In their Portsmouth, where Emily, of course, is with the Wirtz collection, and also a major focus, the Portsmouth works. So Emily here will be, soon releasing a wonderful, work on all of that. And here we have the big Hopewell complex at Marietta. Then we have Alexandria here at Alexandersville, here at the south edge of Dayton. Fort Ancient, Milford, and the Turner Works here at Cincinnati. There is this humongous many-acre man site here. One of the big, if you want to see a Hopewell Village site, right here near the mouth of the Wabash River into the Ohio River, there is an intense Hopewell Village site of perhaps 20 acres. So around here, we have this, much like talk about the smaller farmsteads. At the mouth of the Wabash here, a huge village of 20 acres. So extreme variability here, a very big deal here. And then we have the Illinois Hopewell at Havana and Beardstown. But here we have the Tremper Mound. Who remembers all those wonderful carved, pipes in the Tremper Mound? Most of us, I suspect. Do we remember where most of that pipestone came from? And it wasn't Fort Hill here, was it? Mr. Wilson is about to save us.
I was going to say 98% of it came from Illinois and Minnesota pipestone.
So the Minnesota would be like clear up here, but the Sterling pipes up here, here's Lake Michigan, here's Chicago, here's the Mississippi River, clear up here, across almost all of Illinois, across all of Indiana, across much of Ohio, right down here to Tremper Mound. Speaking of interesting mysteries, and of course, as most of us from around here realize, within 2 miles at the most from Tremper Mound, we have Fort Hill Pipestone. So a true mystery.
Got a question, Jeff.
Please save us, yes. Thank you.
Has there ever been a study done as to whether the pipes were done in Illinois and brought here, or was the stone brought here and the pipes done here?
I don't think anyone's found a way really to test that.
I'm sure.
That's the trouble. I don't know. Let's all study on that, see a good way, to actually.
Other than the debitox left over from production, there was a bunch of pieces. And did they not had they not discovered the Fort Hill pipestone yet? Is there artifact in Tremper made out of the Fort Hill pipestone, or did they not know?
Well, that's it. Because, as David back here can tell us out at the old county home, there were tubular pipes from 4,000 years ago made out of Fort Hill pipestone. But, as David and I were discussing right before this, between these cultures, is there continuity or is there discontinuity of population? We just don't know. So just because a population around here knew about it in 2000 BC, did the Hopewell folks 2,000 years later, was that knowledge of it passed on or not? Or were they two separate total groups? Because we'd like to say, well, this period followed that period, but the period between the county home, the late Archaic there, the river to the county home in Tremper Mound, is as long ago from the patriarch Abraham leaving Ur of the Chaldees to go to the promised land from to us today. It's been a long time. And I'm sure populations can change, be replaced, and, you know, golly. So, I mean, but a very good point, a very good question. Very good point.
One thing we do know is that all of the same carved animal pipes that were found in Mound City were from Ohio pipestone across.
Yes, like you say, Mound City, a total different picture, right? Yeah.
But carbon dated
Yes.
about one generation.
Yes, so
after
maybe
the Trump
that was indeed the case. Oh, please, Emily,
I
help
just had a
us.
comment to answer your question. There were 2 tube pipes and ear spools and a cone that were all thought to be made out of the Fort Hill Pipestone found it in Trumper Mountain. That was in the same study.
Okay.
But anyway, but truly an interesting mystery. Okay, we're moving right along. Okay, let's move to this one. Cores and bladelets, a hallmark of the Hopewell culture. This happens to be a flint knapper in Spain who has been making cores, you know, bladelets, striking the bladelet from this core here. And, okay, this is just one of the cores from Ohio. This one happens to be from Milford on the Miami River. Oops, went too far. Okie doke. This here shows the bladelets are made out by striking them off, you know, from these cores. In Ohio, I'm making a gross generalization now, most of them are Flint Ridge Flint. From Flint Ridge down to Circleville, there's a concentration of production centers for these bladelets. But there's only 5 other production centers out of this area here that have been identified in Ohio. You find the scattered cores, but I'm talking about the big production centers. One is at the Liberty Earthworks, where Mr. Argabright has a wonderful program on, just south of Chillicothe on the Scioto River. The other one is around the Bowen Site Earthworks on Paint Creek, between Bainbridge and Bourneville. This one here, between, and we thank Mr. Kuhn, this one here between Lucasville and Piketon. Humongous production center there, not that far from the Seal Earthworks. You can see not that far north of the Tremper, just into Pike County from Scioto County. This is the further south production center known in the Scioto Valley. Then we have the one at Fort Ancient on the Little Miami and the one at the Turner Works northeast of Cincinnati. But here we are. This is as far as the production center goes down the Scioto River. And here's one of those bladelets. You can see the ones with the stars are the production centers. The individual dots are individual bladelets. And again, we can study this and go over it, you know, in small groups and between ourselves later. Not the time or place to go into it really now. Some of the gorgeous Hopewell points. Both of these from a Sunfish Creek, western Pike County. Another gorgeous Hopewell point that I know Mr. Wilson is familiar with from Ohio Brush Creek near Serpent Mound. Oops. And the good old late woodland that came after Hopewell, the Chester Points, from about the year 500 to 700. But what happened to the Lower Scioto here? This is something we need, you know, that we will address in humongous detail, you know, in our work sessions among ourselves. And I'm sure we'll have many good surprises and discussions and discoveries on that. The so-called intrusive mound culture, the year 700 to 900. This one just south of Jackson, Ohio. This one here's from Hanging Rock, Lawrence County on the Ohio River, from the old Davison farm. You can see how resharpened like this. This one here, there's good grinding all over the base and up to these shoulders. So I really wonder if it wasn't hafted up to here, and that's all that was sticking out. This one we have in our you can pick up the frame, but this one it's so paper thin and delicate. It's not in the touching display, but you can pick up the frame. But this one we won't be handling the actual piece, but it is upstairs to examine. And again, in Emily's book, you'll read a whole lot about the intrusive mound period from around Portsmouth here. A whole lot. And just shows the different Hopewell, Chester, Jack's Reef Point distributions. We can, go over these in our, in our study sessions among ourselves at another time. Can't really get into it now. It just shows the kind of maps that we can make. Come on. Then lastly, lastly, just got a couple more here. Fort Ancient culture, year 1200 to the year 1650. Here's Elvin McGraw with Clarence Blaine. Who here has heard of, in the book, the Blaine Fort Ancient Village site? I know that some of us have. Who has been past Chillicothe on Route 23? Probably most of us. Then you've been to the Blaine Village site. This is 1966. Dr. Olaf Prüfer from Kent State excavated Blaine Village site because right where Alvey and Clarence are standing on the village site here, where Route 50 or Eastern Avenue has the interchange with Route 23, that interchange is the Blaine Village site. That very interchange. Yes. And in Fort Ancient times, besides the bow and arrow, corn, yes, maize. And just a very couple pictures left. Here's some of David's Fort Ancient pottery from the fort site up by Rosemont. And but did new populations come in for this culture? Was it in place just changing to the same people? Was it some immigrants and some of the same people left? What's the archaeologist's 3 favorite words? We don't know. But we're studying this. And of course, the answer might not be the same all over Ohio. Maybe someplace each of those scenarios played out. But we're coming down the very tail here, and I won't forget the thing I'm going to plug, Gary, here, so don't, I'm not forgetting, sir. Okay, some of the Fort Ancient cultural points. These are from the village site, about 700 years old, right behind the Ross County Fairgrounds, the Kramer site. Some of them have these wonderful serrations here. Peak. And just, picture of the map that Krangler points. You can see the ones that are serrated are really concentrated along the Ohio and the lower part of the Brush Creek, the very lower part of the Scioto River, the serrated ones. Okay, here, the last, second to last slide. These so-called Madisonville scrapers, one of the latest type of flint artifacts in Ohio, about 600 years. In other words, from about the year 1400 to about the year 1650. Here are their distribution. You can see so many around here, like at Hardin's and the other, sites right around Portsmouth here. A big cluster from Waverly to Richmonddale, then up the Scioto River to Circleville. And here I think is the second to last slide.
Question about this one?
Please, yes, let's go back.
So, how do you tell the difference between that and like a leaf-shaped blade?
If there's some in the Wirtz collection, we can look through the case. And, well, one thing, these things, here it looks huge. These things are only maybe an inch long.
So small.
And they're also, one face is flat. Well, here's the man that's found most of them. Let me yield to Mr. Steve here.
The tail on the nibbling is the rounded edge, which is a working edge.
Uh-huh.
Will almost always look just like a scraper. It'll have that nose down and it'll be polished.
Okay.
They're just, instead of being uniface on the
Right,
back,
right.
they're bifunctional.
Okay.
And
Mr.
I've got a whole tray full of examples.
Oh.
Yes, that's right. And Mr. Valentine is the person that taught me about them in the first place. The Valentines did. So I should have yielded to the Valentine brothers in the first place. Yes, because they're the ones that taught me. But that's right, and they have some, so they can show us in just a moment here.
Excellent.
They can show us. I forgot who was right in front of me here. But I mean well. I mean well. Okay, but lastly then, kind of interesting, here we have the village sites for this period, 1400 to 1650. All of them around Portsmouth. All of them are between Richmondale and Waverly. Now, there's also pottery over here at Dolph Johnson's Rock Shelter in southeastern Pike County on in a cave on upper part of Sims Creek. There's also this very late Madisonville pottery with the burial in Sight Mound by Bourneville. But not the scrape, but yet I've never been able to find, and keep looking, for these scrapers in the Paint Valley. And I'd love to be shown wrong, but so far just haven't been able to find them. But it looks like north of their villages, this might be, some kind of more of a maybe seasonal hunting area here, where they have the hunting camps north of the village. I think we're to the slide we've been looking for all evening now. The last one. Yep, the last one, and this just, especially, if this is recorded or somebody gets emailed a copy of this just tells who I am, but you know who I am anyway. I am Jeb. So, however, while we're still in session here, one very brief thing, but a very important thing. Can Mr. Gary Argerbright wave again? And you're coming upstairs, right? Good. Gary, in conjunction with Dr. Joe Ginrich and with Dr. Andrew from the Wayne National Forest. Dr. Joe was from at Ohio University, Athens. Bless them. They put my name on here as a courtesy, but it's truly their project. If you want to do it, you need to contact, Gary and the people that are really working on it. Well, I appreciate that courtesy. Thank you. But anyway, on the Ice Age, end of the Ice Age points, especially from southern Ohio, and they're doing wonderful work. It's the work that Dr. Minton Aaron will be speaking here soon, right?
Yes.
Like next month maybe?
Next month sometime.
Good. So come back to hear, Minton Aaron, the wonderful fellow, and it's he's a true honorable gentleman and a very good archaeologist. Everyone will like Dr. Minton, yes. I like him a lot. But anyway, on this very same topic, and Gary has some flyers, so if you're interested in Gary's project, you can talk to him upstairs or downstairs before he gets away. And you have some of your flyers, don't you, Gary? At that, I yield back to, with thanks to Emily here, and thank you.
Yeah, thank you all for
everyone.
I do want to plug one more thing before we go upstairs. So June, the weekend of the 19th is the Friends of Serpent Mound Solstice celebration, which is on the property adjacent to Serpent Mound, and there'll be all kinds of speakers and workshops and wonderful things happening that weekend. And I will also be giving a lecture there that Saturday on is the 19th or the 18th. I don't know, one of those days, whatever weekend that is.
Gary will be speaking there that weekend. I'll be speaking there that weekend. There will be people exhibiting artifacts. I think other members from the chapter. Barney will be there.
So you're all invited to that too. But yeah, let's go upstairs and check out our
The guy from Friends of Serpent Mound.
Yes.
Years ago, they would have shows at Circle Mountain. Are you gonna try to do anything like that again? I mean, they didn't have big shows. You might have 5 or 6 displayers.
Right.
Come on.
At this point, the OHC has pretty much suspended all eventing at Serpent Mound. So the only event that takes place throughout the year is the summer solstice
Right.
event that we hold on the adjacent property. What we've done is we've incorporated many of the people that used to display those artifacts at that event throughout the weekend. So the public can come up and just see that stuff and get stuff identified throughout the weekend.
Okay.
If you have an interest in coming and displaying, let me know and I'll make room for you. Because, you know, that's one of the things, it's an
Oh, you just put
educational
something
goal.
out there.
You know, we don't allow people to sell those artifacts or anything like that, but it's just for displaying education.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah?
Appreciate it.
Well, let's all, if you're invited to come and join us in the Art of the Ancients exhibition with some artifacts to see and touch.
Nice job.